Alexis, I mean, I thought this episode was fine. It was okay.
I totally disagree. I have very different feelings about this episode. So
Say more.
I love so many things. There are so many little things about this episode that make me really happy. Like the very first scene of the entire episode makes me so happy. And there are moments throughout the episode where I'm just like, oh, my heart. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, that's so cute. It's like a very touching episode. And so I really, really enjoy it.
There are definitely parts that made me giggle, that I really loved. There are lines that are great. I just don't feel like this one stands out to me as an episode, especially in this season where there are things that are important that build more. I mean, I don't mind getting other character backstory. We had a great Lassie backstory episode. I don't mind this Juliet backstory episode. I feel like it didn't have to be romance. And a very beige romance.
Yeah, the romance feature was like, meh. But for me, it wasn't about that love story.
It certainly doesn't deserve to be.
The things that I loved about it were first of all, the Shawn Henry story. Mm-hmm. I love the Gus Juliet dynamic. Mm-hmm. The Juliet Lassie dynamic.
Love that.
The Juliet Shawn dynamic. The Chief Vic Shawn dynamic. Like, there are so many moments that are so touching throughout this episode that, you know, Scott Seaver, or whatever his name is, who was probably on the Growing Pains or something. I agree with you. He's kind of beige. That guy is not the big part of the story. Like, all of the other little things that are happening are what are or what make the story for me.
I do love the part, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I do love the part where at multiple points we see Juliet kind of reconciling how far she's come with what she used to want and what used to fit into her life and her world, and like where she is now and what kind of fits and who fits. So that I will give props to. I just don't feel like this one is really a shining standout of an episode. So I think you're right too.
This is always one of the ones that I remember.
Really?
Like, there's no question about this episode. I saw it was a very Juliet episode, and I was like, this one I always remember.
See, the next
we've
one
had some
for me,
episodes in the past that we've recorded that I'm just like, meh. Oh, what's the next one?
Oh, big guest star. Like big guest star. Like the guest star. Like the flaring nostrils of the guest star.
I'm so intrigued.
That was like the biggest hint I could give you.
The flaring nostrils of the guest star.
Girlfriend. Dude. It's the thumbnail of the next episode. Like,
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, I'm excited now. But shall we talk about this episode?
It's showtime.
This is To the Blueberry! I am Alexis, and I am a real-life Gus.
I'm Kaylee, and I'm a real-life Shawn.
And together we make up To the Blueberry, a Psych rewatch podcast. We decided, over a year and a half ago now, maybe not a half, over a year ago now, that we wanted to start a podcast, so we had a reason to talk to one another. So we are rewatching our favorite show, Psych.
And today we are at season 4, episode 12. Alexis, what was this one called?
A very Juliet episode.
And we do get a flashback, but not our usual flashback.
It is a flashback of Juliet in Los Angeles in 2003. And again, this just starts off the episode for me.
I was never sure where
that
we were.
Are getting a Juliet flashback.
Were we in Los Angeles? Why are we taking trains? I was so confused.
That's fair. So the story I got from it was that little baby Juliet and this big handsome man,
Beige Man,
came to Los Angeles. I don't know. I thought he was handsome. I liked his IMDb picture better than his look in this show.
He just looked like every guy we went to college and high school with. I swear to God. It's just...
They came to Los Angeles to, like, check it out because that's where Big Handsome Man is going to be, or nearby. And Juliet is on her way to Miami because she doesn't get on the train. He does. But she's on her way to Miami to go to college and the police academy.
I thought she gets on the train in this part and he gets on the train next time because he lives in California, but she's going back to Florida to finish college.
Yep, you're 100% right. So why is she taking a train to Florida?
I don't think she's taking a train to Florida. She might be taking a train to the city where the airport is. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
She's leaving on that midnight train to Florida.
Gross.
Sorry. I hate to do that. Okay, so, yeah, that's the thing. They decided that they did not want to do long distance, although now that they've been together a little bit, Scott kind of does, but Juliet's like, no, clean break.
He doesn't want to do long distance. He wants her to stay in Cali with him. Which, like, she has a plan, dude. Don't get in her way. She'll resent you forever because this is her calling. She's going to finish school. She's going to the police academy in Miami. And long distance doesn't work. So clean break just made the most sense. But
she said, how about this? How about in 10 years we meet back at this very train station at the same time, 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
If they are both single, they will go get coffee. If they both are married, they will be happy together. They'll be happy for one another.
And talk about their kids or something. And he's like, how do you always manage to be both practical and entirely romantic?
She gets on the train and he goes, there's just one problem. 10 years is too long.
How about 8?
How about 7?
It's a deal. Or plan. Or whatever.
Screen goes black, screen comes up, exactly 7 years later.
Which makes this 2010, because we started in 2003. Girl, we were freshmen in high school in 2003.
That's true.
And 2010, we were late into college.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl is at this train station in a pretty red dress, which is not, I'm going to say, Juliet's normal color of choice. It's a statement.
It's not, but it's about it. Like, I'm about it. This is another reason why
sure.
I love this episode, because every time I picture Juliet, I picture her with this hairstyle and this dress. Like, very classic, very chic. I love it.
Yeah, vintage glam. So she's in red. It's 4 p.m. But 4 p.m. also comes and goes. And then a Steve Perry song starts playing. And it's real sad.
You can tell that she's very anxious, but she's also very excited, but there's no Scott.
And then 6 p.m., and she's on the phone with somebody? Do we ever find out? Do we just assume it's Lassiter?
I think so, because later on we find out that he has been her confidant through all of this.
So there's this fake out with this other beige man walking through the doors, and he's got a minor soul patch, and it's not Scott, it's just some other beige man, but honest mistake. And then it gets dark out, and everything's closed down, and no more trains are running, so it's empty. So she finally leaves.
Just a sad Juliet.
Let me go to SPPD.
This is the next scene in SPPD where Juliet is using Lassiter as her sounding board. Lassie is very excited to be someone's confidant and then gives her the best piece of advice that Lassiter could ever give a person.
Oh my god, I have this quote. I have this entire quote.
Okay, good.
Because
I only have it to gut-wrenching despair.
It is quite. I want you to listen to me, O'Hara, and believe this because I mean it from the bottom of my heart. All romance ends in despair. Or death, but mostly despair. Gut-wrenching despair. And I hate to say this, but I'm actually happy that this happened. Because now you know. And it's just going to make you a better cop to realize that all people are essentially just out there to destroy any chance of happiness that you will ever have. I feel a hug coming on.
I think it's such an awkward hug. That was great, Kay. I'm so happy you got all that. There's a nice awkward Lassie Juliet hug. And again, this is part of the story that I love so much.
Totally.
Like we're watching Juliet and Lassiter's relationship blossom here, where like we make the assumption that she called him for advice and that, you know, her heart's broken, so she's going to him. Like that's such a great I don't know, like I have goosebumps. Like this, it's just such a great moment. They have another really great moment later, but she tries to rally. Juliet's like, okay, I can do this. I don't need to worry about it. I got this. But exactly 10 minutes later, she's looking him up in the system.
Illegally.
There are no matches to his name, and she's very confused.
So she ropes in Buzz.
Yay, Buzz. They are going to go through the paper files looking for him, but Chief catches her doing this for a, quote, personal matter, which is very illegal.
Says, sorry, but stop exactly what you're doing right this moment. And then she's like, I'm sorry to come off like a hard ass, but, you know. And there's this really awkward back and forth between Chief and Juliet, where Juliet's like, no.
Oh, I didn't take it that way.
I was trying to be a hard ass.
Oh, well, then it definitely worked.
And it's so weird. She's like, back to work now, shoo.
As she's walking away, Chief Vic said, I'm sorry your boyfriend didn't show. Can I offer you a piece of general advice about men? They often don't show.
Oof. Everybody this episode, just with the cynicism. Jule says that Scott was different, and then she spots Gus.
And she's like, oh, I can have him look for Scott, but only Gus, because bringing in Shawn would make it weird.
Yeah, that would be kind of awkward.
But no worries, because Gus is in total stealth mode.
Vault of Secrets.
There is a Juliet-Gus fist bump.
It's like a magic disappearing fist bump. It's the coolest one yet.
That moment. Okay. Again, this is another dynamic that I love about this episode.
Immediately punctuated by Gus not so smoothly running into a door with blinds because they were in secret conference.
Right. That's true. I don't know. I still think it's great that Juliet feels like close enough to Gus that she can go to Gus without Shawn. That speaks to their relationship as friends versus just, you know, Gus being Shawn's sidekick.
Well, they also worked
Gus
on...
is not.
No. I mean, he's definitely his own person, which I love about this show. But, like, they worked together when Shawn was missing in a couple episodes ago. Mm-hmm. So, like, they have a dynamic, and I love that we're doubling down on that in this season. So we go to the psych office.
Oh my gosh, and a very important thing comes up in this scene. Gus is looking for Scott on his just random, like a random search engine on his computer.
And Shawn is like, what you doing?
Oh, sweet, we got a case.
No, I'm looking for a missing person for Juliet. And Shawn is like, ooh, for Jules, I'm totally in. And Gus is like, no, I'm doing this. It's no one in particular. She doesn't even know this person. It's just something I'm doing on the side. And Shawn is like, oh my God, you're in the Vault of Secrets.
Juliet said no. You cannot help, period. Suck it.
Fine.
This is the first time they say suck it.
It is the first time they say suck it, and we get it so much in this episode. Like, it just, like, it was like, oh, this is a thing now, very clearly.
My favorite part about the suck it catchphrase, first of all, I'm sitting on my psych blanket right now, and it definitely has suck it listed as a psych catchphrase. But do you remember the commercials? And it must have been like pre-season, like one of the later seasons, where the boys are like doing exercise to get back into the groove of being on the show. And I think it's Shawn is lifting weights, and every time he does a bicep curl, he goes, suck it, suck it, suck it, suck it. No. Oh my gosh,
that
you
is
need
the
to look
perfect
up that
way
commercial. It's so funny.
I mean, I must do bicep curls this way from now on.
Here we go. Shawn and Gus get back in shape. Oh, this was for Psych the movie.
Oh.
The original one on the USA Network.
God! God, do you remember?
Isn't that fantastic?
Do you remember how turned up we got over that?
Oh, yes.
When that was announced, we were like, it's back! It's back! I'm freaking out! And now we're 3 movies in.
Yeah, that was amazing. I love that commercial. Like, I still laugh at it.
That's gonna live rent-free in my head. I haven't seen that in so long.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right, let's get back to it.
So anyway, we get the introduction of Suck It. This went on so long, Alexis.
Shawn said that if Gus doesn't want his help, then fine. He'll just do it alone.
You can't.
I accept your challenge.
There is no challenge. Shawn! I just end up being Gus accidentally sometimes.
Yeah. Now we are at 24 hours later, and Shawn's found Scott.
Shawn and Gus both end up at the SBPD. They both have a message to deliver to Juliet, and Gus says, I think I should be the one to deliver the news. I'll break it to her. He says break it to her.
There's this thing about how Shawn should be the one that breaks it because he's the one who does this. Which is the hand to the head thing.
Oh, yeah, because this is a podcast, and they couldn't see you just do that like I could. I was very confused. And Shawn says, because it'd be weird if you suddenly did that. And Gus is like, it's weird when anyone does that. Shawn says, I think it's pretty sweet when Simon Baker does that.
Simon Baker doesn't do that. Which Kaylee had to point out to me was a Mentalist reference that I did not get.
Yes, Simon Baker is the lead character on The Mentalist. And Shawn says, well, at least we have that. Because The Mentalist was a blatant ripoff of Psych, who did it better. Because we have 3 movies. Suck it!
Suck it! They are ready to go tell Juliet, and Shawn runs up and says, Jules, I've got good news and bad news. Bad news is, he's dead.
Gasp.
And Juliet is broken.
Oh my god. She goes into full, shock and mourning. And Shawn is like, whoa, she really cares about this case.
Well, because it wasn't some random guy, Gus said. It was her boyfriend.
What? Why wouldn't you tell me that?
There's a whole moment of well, what was the good news? And Shawn said, I was going to say we have a case because I'm pretty sure he was murdered.
Credits. Full song credits.
At the psych office, Shawn is there early to work on this case, and Shawn has called in Henry.
Yeah, he needs to solve this case for Juliet, for closure. And Henry is like, I'm the one who found him. He didn't just call me in this time.
They are certain that whatever's going on is very obviously a cover-up of a murder.
So Henry found something. Gus is surprised that Shawn called in his dad, and Henry's like, are you kidding? I'm the one who found the guy. Shawn ate Munchos, and Shawn says, I was on the missing persons website. But Henry says you were on the missing persons, the band website. I didn't know that was a band.
Where he actually was on the Treasury Department's website because he got his Treasury Department password up and working again.
You don't have a Treasury Department password.
No, but agent somebody else does.
No, Lars Ewing from, the Very Thirsty Juliet episode.
Yes. That's a good reference. I didn't catch that one either.
Yeah.
They are using Gus's computer to look it up because Shawn realizes that it's very illegal.
So they do the search, and the result pings an alert, and a girl who I just want to point out is in a very secure-looking government agency office, stands up from her computer, walks out of the room without securing her computer and locking it down, which I can't even do in a financial place of business.
I work from home and I can't even do that.
Yeah, she leaves the room, didn't lock her computer, to go tell a man in a suit that they just got a search result for Scott Seaver. And he's like, is it local? And she's like, Santa Barbara, so fairly. And he's like, all right. And we see his gun holster, and we're like, he's either like a G-man or like a bad guy. And we don't know at this moment. They make it unclear. They make it unclear, Alexis.
Do they? But do they? Wait for it.
So...
Shawn, Gus, and Lassie are working in Chief Vic's office, and Lassie is acting a tough game.
Gus says, "Are you sure this is okay?"
As soon as he sees someone even remotely that looks like Chief Vic, he hits the deck and asks the boys to do the same, and they all drop down.
Oh, we're good. It's the biscuit lady. I owe her 80 cents. Also, we maybe made out at one of the company get-togethers.
What we find out is that there is actually another one of those moments, but what we find out is that Scott Seaver was working for a company owned by J.T. Waring,
who is an LA mobster arrested for racketeering.
Then they hide again. And then they decide that things he got in over his head. They decide that Scott probably got in over his head when he was working for JT. And
it led to him getting
that's why
unalived.
someone... Right, that's why someone killed him.
So there is a little throwaway line about, what even is racketeering? And Lassiter goes, nobody knows. But we do! We know! We know what racketeering is.
Because we talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Did we?
With the somebody's trying to kill Lassiter episode, Shawn gets the yips.
Oh, because other mobsters. Yeah. Russians. So,
right.
Yeah, so basically it's any time someone uses a business for illegal proceedings, either doing business illegally in an illegal way or using a legit business as a front for criminal activity, basically anything dishonest or fraudulent and business dealings at the same time. It often leads to those RICO charges that we kind of have talked about before. But it can cover anything from murder, kidnapping, extortion, intimidation, criminal business for profit. It's very vague on purpose, but yeah, mobster, racketeering. It goes hand in hand.
Lassiter's like, hey, we should probably get Juliet in on this because we need information from her, but we should do it very delicately.
Well, Shawn says we need to do it delicately because Lassiter wants to grill her over her old boyfriend. And they kind of nominate Shawn because Lassie can't be trusted. And so Shawn approaches Jules with the other guys. It doesn't go great with the other guys.
Shawn kindly asks about Scott. Lassiter asks about all of the cop things he wants to ask about.
Dark fetishes,
Shawn
priors.
smacks him. And we get a classic Lassie manhandle Shawn moment.
Oh, it's great. And then Gus just bursts into tears. And
I'm a sympathetic crier.
nobody was crying. And so Juliet's like, this is not the right time. And so Shawn is like, seriously, Lassiter, fetishes? And Lassiter's like, talk to Captain Fawcett's over here. And Gus blames Lassiter. It's like a whole Mexican standoff of blame over how badly this went.
So Shawn's like, fine, I'll do it myself. And so he goes outside and catches up with Juliet. And we get kind of a rundown from Juliet about Scott. The things that I have in my notes are that he was a wonderful, wonderful guy. He was super tall. And, I love tall guys.
And she was crazy about him.
Shawn's face.
Shawn's face. Also his athleticism. And Shawn's like, so football? And she calls him a tight end, which is just the most suggestive title of a football position. You couldn't just call him like a I don't know, midfielder like they do in European football. He has to be the tight end.
I mean, so the tight end is an actual position.
Yeah.
But yes,
suggestive.
He was built like like an offensive lineman. So he easily could have been like a center or a center forward, which would have been less. Yeah,
Are you
I know about football now,
speaking
Kaylee.
sports
Come on.
ball at me right now?
I know about football. You can blame my husband. She then went on to say that she had nothing but like great things to say, and I guess he had a rare Dumbo collection, and it was like super priceless as a collection, but he broke the collection apart to give her one
Because
he knew that she loved them so much.
loved Dumbo ever since she was a little kid, and Shawn is like, wow, he's ticking all kinds of boxes for you.
Oh yeah, he got her Super Bowl tickets on the 35-yard line.
He had a connection through his grandpa knowing the mayor, and it was like the best night of her life. And then Shawn sees Gus and Lassiter spying from behind a tree, and he's like, get out of here. And like, there's a weird hug thing, and then he's motioning to the guys, and he's like, you and your black friend, get right out of here. That's amazing. And you can't see it, but I'm also doing the like shoe motion that he was doing.
Hand. Juliet is just thankful that they were able to talk, and they have like another hug, and finally Shawn is just like, you know what, let's just keep walking. And she's like, oh, okay.
And then he chucks
and then they start to walk.
A rock so hard at this tree. I was like, was this scripted? Someone could have been hurt. It could have ricocheted.
I do, again, as I'm justifying why I love this episode so much. When Lassiter and Gus are spying on Shawn and Juliet, they are hiding behind a tree, doing the very classic, like, Gus's head is lower than Lassie's head, sticking out from behind the tree. And it's just so funny to me to see it.
Because, okay, so I was in a play in high school where we had to do that, but there were way too many of us. And me being the tallest, I had to drape myself over this pyramid of much smaller girls and be the top head in this scenario. Also while singing. It was a lot.
Was that Little Shop?
Yes, it was.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So, we get a little.
Oh, it's okay. I went to a wedding this weekend, and we took a family picture. And I had on heels. I had on heels at the wedding, and I was the tallest person in line, with the exception of my cousin Evan, who was the groom. But I was taller than all of the men.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Oh, that's gonna be me at the wedding I'm going to for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We get a check-in with Henry, who says that the popo up in the part of California where Mr. Guy was sort of from / where his unaliving probably happened have been no help whatsoever. It's like they didn't even do their due diligence at the crime scene. The former crime scene is now a mini mall. And how did they take absolutely no photos of the crime scene at the time? And then it turns out he's talking to Shawn on the phone through Bluetooth while Shawn is in the Blueberry with Gus.
Shawn is driving the Blueberry, and Gus then realizes that he's on the phone and was like, have you been on the phone this whole time? I've been talking to you. We're driving the wrong direction.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not driving the wrong direction because Shawn always has a plan.
I just wrote Dumbo ...
He's got a plan, and it includes Dumbo figurines. Somebody is selling this rare collection of Dumbo figurines, minus the one that Scott had given Juliet. And so, as they walk up to the door, Shawn's like, I'm pretty sure whoever's selling this is the killer and stole them from Scott, thinking that they were got finally in the clear and could get rid of them now.
And Gus is like, so we should tell the cops, right? And Shawn's already knocked on the door, and he's like, we could be at the house of a murderer.
The door opens. They both scream like little girls, but then they make these faces that are like, what?
Yeah, I was really into the vibe of the door opening and them screaming and then immediately, like, not being afraid. I just, like, loved that whole moment as a comedic moment.
Once again, they walk in and they tell Juliet that they have good news and bad news. This time they start with the good news.
So he's
and
not
the good news is the boys fist bump, and Juliet breaks through the fist bump to run over and give him a big hug and a kiss.
Yeah, Weird. It was a lot. I mean, I know she's relieved, but like, just like jumping into someone's arms and kissing them after 7 years and you thought they were dead. I don't know. I don't know.
Shawn does not like them kissing. We see that very clearly.
Jule says, "Oh, so what's the bad news?" And then Shawn backtracks and he's like, "You know what? There's no bad news."
Chief Vic comes in because she does have bad news. She has the feds with her. She's with Agent Wayne, and we find out that Shawn has exposed a key witness who has been in the Witness Protection Program, which I call WITSEC in my notes because it was shorter to write that way, and so I will likely keep calling it that. And there's so many faces all the way around.
Yes. So, Daniel Wayne is a federal marshal, and he is so, like, wait, it was you? You found him? And Shawn's like, yes, I did. And, yeah, they've exposed a federal witness. And I kept saying WITSEC in my head, and I was like, wait, is that the right program? Am I getting things confused? But I kept calling it that in my head, too. And, let's see. So, we're in a debrief meeting room. Jules and Scott are holding hands. Shawn is very distracted by it. So was I. It was ick.
Scott is telling his whole story, and basically, where he worked was a front. There was a raid on JT's warehouse where he was working, and a federal agent was killed. JT, the bad guy, the guy that we believe killed this federal agent, was connected to kind of everything, and now he is behind bars. But while he's behind bars, he's still very connected, and so Agent Wayne is very worried about Scott's safety and wants to get him into another witness protection plan.
Scott is very like, no. I want my life back. I'm with Juliet now. She scoured the state for me, and I'm here. He's in jail. How much can he actually do?
There is a point where Scott says, I never felt safe in witness protection.
Dun, dun, dun. So Jules looks very uncomfy with this, like, way of looking at what she did. She just sort of, like, did a casual look around when she got flaked out on. And someone else found him. She didn't scour the state for him. She didn't know he was in trouble. She didn't have some sixth sense about it. And so, like, giving her, like, praise for, like, finding him and being worried about him, she's like, it's not really what happened.
But nonetheless, they do end up on a little date where Scott is at Juliet's house making dinner for her.
Yeah, and her entire spice cabinet is, like, untouched, and her spices are completely sealed. And
I wrote for shame. I recognize that she's busy, but come on.
I mean,
like, not even cinnamon.
Lassiter buys groceries. Okay? Lassiter.
Yeah.
She asks him a question about witness protection, and she said, did you ever order spaghetti marinara and get egg noodles with ketchup? And she's, like, giggling a little bit, like, chuckling at this, and he's like, no? What? And she's like, oh, it's from Goodfellas. It's, you know what? It doesn't matter. Again.
Now we have Juliet making 80s pop culture references.
Scott doesn't get it, and I was like, wedge. Like, a firm wedge. If you don't have, like, listen, I have lots of people in my life who don't get my references, but the people that do, or that at least know, like, you're making an 80s movie reference that I don't know, like, it's fine. They know it's me, and he doesn't get that. They're not on that level. They don't have that connection. Mm-hmm. He has no idea why she would be making a reference to a movie.
They're about to have kind of a tender moment where they're going to tell each other about their lives, and Juliet hears something outside, immediately pulls out her gun and tells him to get away from the window. Lassiter is outside, and he saw someone who was around 5'8", who ran off, and so Lassie's like, dude, I'm going to go find him. And Scott's super confused because he thought they were on a date.
And he's like, you were just protecting me? Which, okay, Beige Man, kindly sit down. Was it not super hot when she stood up, drew her gun, and was like, get away from the windows? I was like, oh, Jules, look at you.
Yeah.
And he's not into it? Pfft, boy. Shawn would be into it.
Yeah, he would. We are back at the Santa Barbara Police Department, and Mr. Wayne, Agent Wayne, wants Scott back in witness protection. And Chief Vic is like, listen, bro, he is a private citizen. You know as well as I do that we cannot force him into doing anything.
Does she use the word compel? Like, we can't compel him to, like, follow your instructions? I don't know. That's the word I want to use right here. Anyway.
That's okay with me.
Let's see. I just wrote Wayne as like, girl, I don't care. He's like,
girl.
I know. I was like, he's super mad. He just wants what he wants. He's like, I don't give up. And Shawn is like, oh, he says, I don't care. And Shawn is like, fugitive. And then he tries to set him up for a better, like, Tommy Lee Jones quote. And again, like nothing on his reference. And
yeah, there's a reference to Conan because they're trying to figure out Shawn is trying to figure out why Juliet and Scott were on a date, and he was like, wait, what time was this? Was this before Conan or after Conan? Because Shawn wanted to know how late he was at her place. And after the fugitive reference, Shawn goes, all right, shake it off, let's try again, I'll be Harrison. And that's a Harrison Ford reference, I think.
Oh yeah. So Tommy Lee Jones played a federal marshal in 2 movies, and I always get them confused because there's is it called Federal Marshals? I don't know. One is The Fugitive with Harrison Ford, and the other one is with Wesley Snipes. And Tommy Lee Jones is just Tommy Lee Jonesing out all over the place. So he's like, even if he's not the same character, he's the same character. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I could never remember.
Wayne is very upset, and Chief Vic is like, how about you don't talk about my people in my place?
Ooh.
You need to go get your crap together. And Shawn's like, you know what? Some of this is my fault.
Gus tells him all of this is your fault.
Much of this. But don't worry, he has a plan to fix it. He is headed to prison to meet with JT.
Gus is like, this is your plan? To talk to a convicted murderer?
Gus, don't be that it, and wait for it.
Guys, this is where we get our Arnold Vosloo guest appearance, and he is JT Waring. And he's killing it. He has so much presence. Y'all, this is the mummy of the 1999 The Mummy. This is Imhotep himself.
Yeah. He does a really, really good job in this role. And there's this very funny scene because they're in like prison talking, you know, they have their little phones going and they're talking to each other, and Shawn goes in and introduces himself and then does a Gus intro, but goes, and this is my associate, Burton Guster.
Now you use my real name?
JT makes a reference to Scott being out of WITSEC, and Shawn's like, how did you know?
I didn't, you just confirmed it for me.
Shawn lets go of the little button and said, I can't catch a break this week. And then clicks the little button and starts talking in a British accent to him.
I've come to plead for Scott Seaver's life. Really, as a reasonable person. And Gus is like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm trying to talk to him on his level. Like speak his language. And Gus is like, he's not British.
His language is English.
So we should say Arnold Vosloo is from South Africa. He's not British. Like, in no way, shape, or form is he British.
Shawn's just like, dude, please do not put a hit out on Scott. In the grand scheme of things, you're doing 3 life sentences, so his testimony didn't really matter.
I don't know what I wrote here. I wrote something for Waring, and then Shawn is like, oh God, what did he say? Okay.
Oh, he said, listen, people who are not in prison sometimes do things for me, whether I ask them to or not.
As a favor to me, blah, blah, blah. And Shawn is like, sure, of course they do. You're super cool. And he's like, please maybe tell people not to do those things. And and let Scott be, alive.
What's in it for me?
I'll make you a cake that's high in iron.
Like, heavy wink. With like all the smoothness in the world, he's like, how about we do something that's a little bit less absurd? I was not the one who killed that agent, and I want you to find out who did.
Shawn is like, he's so convincing. And Gus is like, he is a criminal. And Gus is like, yeah, but he's got such a great head and a real presence. He's very Billy Zany.
You and Billy Zane are the only ones who use that term.
He is playing to you. He is the lowest form of trash. And Waring is like, you do realize I can hear you and these don't click off, right?
Now, there is something very Billy Zanian about
Arnold Vosloo?
Arnold?
Yes.
Arnold Vosloo. Apparently, when people come up to him on the street and ask if he was the guy in Titanic, he says yes.
Well, people often
because
ask,
people confuse the two all the time.
Yeah, people ask Billy Zane if he was like in The Mummy all the time, thinking he was Imhotep. So Waring then talks about honor, and Shawn's like,
Shawn.
Oh, totally. I have a bootleg copy of Saving Private Ryan at home. We don't even have time. But
yep.
Waring says, I'll serve my time for my alleged crimes, but I don't kill people, and I can't have my children thinking that I kill people. Shawn believes him.
Do we have a deal?
Gus is like, do not, you do not. And Shawn is like, I do. And Waring's like, vindicate me and Scott will be safe. And Waring puts his fist up to the glass. He knows to put his fist up to the glass, first of all. He's so cool. And then Gus is like fighting with Shawn, but Shawn puts his fist up too, and they fist bump through the prison glass.
Deal.
Oh, it's so good.
We cut to the Santa Barbara Police Department where we have a very funny Lassiter and Juliet next moment.
Oh god, it's so awkward.
Where Lassiter just goes, I want to give you my blessing to consummate your relationship with Scott.
Ew, what? What?
All things considered, Lassie's okay with this guy.
And he's really liked being her confidant.
So after a thorough background check and an unauthorized blood test, I think he's okay.
Unauthorized blood test. Juliet's like, yeah, I'm just not sure. I kind of signed up for coffee. If I hadn't shown up and he tracked me down, I'd think he was a stalker. It's like that scene in Grease.
Oh, you mean the one with Sandy after the bonfire?
That's exactly that's like scarily accurate.
Lassiter's like, listen, you need to give it a try because if you don't give it a try, you're never going to know what's happening.
It's like...
It's such a good Lassie Juliet moment. It's a
good moment for them. And he gets her references.
Yeah. Like, spot on.
So it's not just like, romantic people that fit into your life in certain ways. It's like just these connections that you've made. Found family, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, based on your argument earlier, Juliet and Lassiter make a better couple than Juliet and Scott.
I mean, I don't need them to be a better couple, but like they're a much better connection. He fits into her life now. Like she's evolved past that college relationship as it was.
Mm-hmm. Shawn, Gus, and Scott head to T&H Imports, which is the place where Scott worked when JT was arrested.
They break in, let's be honest.
Gus is like, you did not need to break that window. The door has been sitting here untouched for 4 years. There's a thing called decay.
Decay. So Scott is like, well, this place was really high up on security, so you're kind of both right. Do you always disagree like this? Never.
Always. Shawn is kind of questioning if Scott even knew what was going on. He's like, what? How were you here and you didn't know what was happening?
He was like, I was an appraiser. I wasn't in for the day-to-day. I just, like, appraised and did my job. I didn't have to worry about the business dealings of who was importing what. That wasn't a question.
So Shawn wants to see where the body was found, and Shawn and Gus end up going into the office where Shawn does a classic thing of telling Gus to be the body.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm not laying down in that blood stain. Shawn's like, that's not a blood stain. That's just crime scene grease.
FDR didn't want them to keep using it. That's why we don't use it anymore.
Oh my god. So Gus lays down, and then Scott walks in and says, why is he laying in the blood?
Besides, he was laying the wrong direction. According to Scott, he was laying a different way, but Shawn is psychic and saw the pictures and knows that the body was laying in the other direction.
What about the bullet? Wouldn't that have contributed to the whole trajectory question?
Well, they never found the bullet.
Didn't you read the file, says Gus?
Shawn is being kind of weird and then ends up falling backwards and opening up a window. And then Shawn continues to doubt Scott and is like, listen, everything he said in the last 2 days was wrong. Oh, well, then Gus goes, dude, everything you said in the last 2 days was wrong.
Yeah. Gus tells him to stop doubting. And then Shawn says something about Mr. T?
Well, I was right about Mr. T being an extra in the Blues Brothers.
Ah, that's it. Gus is like, about this case. And Shawn is like, sure, but if he's right, then that means... And he psychs out for the trajectory, which would have gone through the window, and they go outside to search the trees.
Shawn makes this comment about how the bullet went through the agent in relatively the same spot, so the bullet was probably traveling straight, but Gus, in his geniusness, was like, dude, you're looking in the wrong spot. You're not compensating for the hill or the fact that the trees have grown over the past 4 years. And then Gus adjusts Shawn's look up, and Shawn sees it.
So Shawn shimmies up this tree without any branches, which, okay, Mulan, sure. And they find it, and he's getting all sappy, because there's sap dripping off of these trees, and they want to dig it out, but they don't have time, and then there's a hoodie man with a gun.
Because they hear gunshots.
I just wrote...
Shawn's like, run, but help me.
I just wrote they all run away, and Shawn is all sappy.
They are back in the woods, but this time they have the entire brigade with them, and Shawn is sensing that there is a bullet in the tree, but there's no way you could see it with your normal eyes. You would need a psychic third eye.
Okay, there was a weird fun fact about this, because apparently Tim Amundsen was in Starship Troopers, which I don't remember him from that, but he had a very literal psychic third eye in that movie, apparently. So, there's that, I guess.
Everyone's like, dude, we can see the hole.
In fact, once Gus finally gets Shawn to look up, someone's already dug out the bullet. And Shawn's just like, oh no, somebody must have gotten here before us. It was the killer.
Who would have done that? At the Santa Barbara Police Department, Juliet is hugging Scott goodbye because it looks like Scott is headed back into WITSEC.
I mean,
now,
after being shot at, he's taking this pretty seriously.
Chief Vic is giving the boys a formal reprimand for everything that they've done wrong, to which she lists a bunch of things.
Misuse of a federal database, informing a convict that a witness is out of protection, trespassing, assisting a murderer.
That last one is not a crime. At best, it's poor judgment. Agent Wayne wants to charge them for all of these crimes that they did commit, but Shawn's like, why is this agent so obsessed with this case? And we find out that because the agent that died during the raid was his partner.
Gus is like, wow, just stop talking, Shawn. Like, you could not get more wrong. Shawn sort of is like, Wayne? What? And then Chief says that he is escorting Scott to his new witness protection liaison and that Shawn just missed him. And Shawn runs to the window to see them getting into an SUV together.
And he sees that very same sap all over Wayne's hands. That was all over him.
I just wrote, sap-handed. And the chief is like, so now? And Shawn is like, him! So passionate! Passionate for a cover-up! Somebody better follow me! And runs away.
Shawn gets on his motorcycle, which we do not see often enough, and follows them. There's a whole lot of motorcycle mumbo jumbo that happens.
Yeah, this is supposedly one of the last times we see Shawn riding this motorcycle. Every time the motorcycle has been shown this season, I'm like, Brody hated that thing. Why is he on it so much this season? I think this was his breaking point,
yeah,
if I'm honest.
That's fair. They are doing this like weird, basically Shawn on his motorcycle gets in front of the FBI car and gets them to pull off the road, and Wayne is mad. I will have you arrested.
Eventually we get Wayne to say...
Oh, that's funny. I was about to say the same thing. On what grounds?
You can keep going. I don't have a ton for this.
Let's see here. Murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, unlawful carving of a spruce tree.
Wayne says, you know what? It's too bad for you. Like, this one was going to be easy. He was expendable. But you're just making this difficult for me now. It's not going to be so easy to get rid of you.
Shawn does make another reference to Billy Zanian qualities of JT, but he also realizes that it was an accident and has this kind of flashback to what probably happened. Basically, Agent Wayne saw somebody in the window with a gun and shot him from a long distance. And when he got upstairs, that's when he saw JT and Scott standing over the body. And then he was like, oh no, I shot my partner. And he rearranged the body to make it look like he had been shot by JT, and then he ran away.
I said, accidental shooting cover up. Oh,
Wayne pulls out a gun.
Yeah, so Wayne has already knocks out Scott, and then pulls a gun, and then there's a tussle, and we get our whole thing, and then
Shawn slaps him, followed by, I'm not proud of that.
I was very proud of that. I said, tussle finally goes down. Oh, so Shawn's final thing with this guy was so by pinning it on JT, you guys still got your conviction and your partner didn't die in vain. I don't know what to call this. Is it a... Oh. I wrote fisticuff, and Shawn slaps this man, and and then he gets knocked out, and then he does a full kip up, and he improvised the line, dude, did you just see what I did?
There's more fighting. Wayne is ready to kill him because Shawn is on the ground in a very vulnerable position. And then Scott comes up behind him and knocks him over the head with a pipe.
I wrote rebar.
Okay.
And
Shawn replies, thanks.
Yeah, I sort of thought it was going to be a little bit more dramatic, then the cops pull up and they see that Scott's the hero and he gets all this praise. But it didn't really go down like that. They showed up a little bit later after Shawn's no longer on the ground. And Wayne gets arrested and he's like, I'll have your badges for this. And Lasseter's like, yeah, right, bro.
You're not an FBI agent anymore.
Juliet
gives Shawn this very nice, thank you face, but doesn't actually say thank you. And Shawn gives it back. And then Shawn starts to tell Gus what happened.
Jules and Shawn share a look. Gus says what happened. Shawn tells him, and Gus is like, I'm pretty sure you won that fight. And Shawn is like, I've heard it both ways.
In the very last scene, we are at that very same train station once again with Juliet and Scott.
Jules has a confession. She didn't really do all the digging. She had somebody else just sort of look him up for her. She didn't know he was in trouble, so she didn't try that hard herself.
Scott actually knew that, but was still kind of hoping that it was Juliet.
He's like, well, where does this leave us?
Well, Scott said, I don't know what's going on, but I don't even know what my life is right now. I've lost the last 4 years, blah, blah, blah. He starts rambling, and Juliet's like, listen, I have an idea.
What about in 3 years, we meet again, right here, same time, and we meet the new you.
Scott gets on the train, and in this perfect bookcase moment, says, one problem, 3 years is too long.
How about 2?
How about 1?
And then they wave. And Jules has like this fraught expression at the end as he like leaves.
So my notes say sad and confused, which I think is probably the definition of fraught.
Yeah, it's just like, it's very weighty. There's a lot in that look of hers. Beautiful facial acting. She did it for the bookend moment, but I don't think her heart's in that. She's like, this could be goodbye. Like, this does feel like goodbye.
And I mean, ultimately it is. We do not get that 1 year later moment.
God, I did not need to revisit this Beige Man. I just didn't. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him.
So by 1 year from now, have Juliet and Shawn gotten together?
I do not remember when that happens because we are only in season 4. Does it happen in season 5 or season 6?
I don't even remember how it happens.
Me neither. We're on this journey again together.
Yeah. But I still adore that episode. I love, again, it's not about the Scott Juliet story for me. It's about Juliet's story with everybody else. That just like brings my heart joy. Yeah,
the family of our cast is very apparent in this episode, and that I do like. That's always a joy. But yeah, it's fine. I'm fine.
So, Kay, you found online where people were saying that there was a pineapple, but
yeah, so the official word from the USA,
there's a little bit of a story to it.
Yeah, the USA Network says there isn't one in this episode, but fans can be insistent, as we know. And many people say that they think there is the silhouette of a pineapple in the office building at the like what is that place called? The Imports place in the office window.
Yeah, the T&H Imports place.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but I also didn't cheat.
Yeah.
So
I just found that fun fact. I didn't look for it myself. We always like to say, like, I'm sure there was a pineapple. I'm sure there's always a pineapple. I'm sure just most of the time it ends up on the cutting room floor, or they don't happen to use the wide shot or something like that. Like, we have faith that there's always pineapples. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think so. It's just, it's too good of a bit to leave it behind.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, the promo we insisted on watching all of a little earlier. We took a little mid-episode break to watch.
Like 3-minute break.
It was like the original promo for the first Psych movie when that was being announced. And there were pineapples everywhere in that. So, like, they really play it up. The fan service is there. But I love this show.
I can't wait till we get to the movies.
I know. I can, but I can't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, we're going to be, like, too close to done. But yeah, the movies are a good time.
Well, there's still a ton to come in our Psych story, so don't stop listening now. Please
start listening.
I guess like, subscribe, comment, just listen. I would be on board for that.
Email us at totheblueberrypodcast@gmail.com.
That would be super sweet. If you want to like guest star on the podcast, if you found a pineapple that we didn't find,
we'll bribe
if you want to correct us. Yeah, if you want to edit our episodes for us.
If you want to leave us
any of those
review
things
on
are acceptable.
Any platform, feel free.
Yeah.
It'll really help with the algorithm.
Yeah, anything.
Because we are deep on these platforms sometimes.
Yeah, but it's still worth having a podcast.
It's so fun.
That all said, my name is Alexis, or we'll never know. Like, what would have happened if Kaneki would have driven that Thunder Road?
Are we still in Greece?
We never weren't.
And I'm Kaylee. Yeah, you like tall men and fat animals.
And this has been
To the Blueberry!
Psych out.